Making his debut here on Saturday Kitchen from the top London restaurant, The Square. It's the brilliant Phil Howard. Now, it's taken 5 years to get you on the show.
Well,
you're finally here. So, food. Yeah. What would it be? What are you going to cook?
Okay, we're going to cook a piece of turbot with a smoked celeriac milk puree and a truffled hazelnut pesto.
Sounds good to me. Right. Okay. So we need to get on and do the celeriac.
What we're going to do is get the big challenge here is to get the celeriac. Is to get that happening.
Get that ready.
And it's all about trying to get that there needs to be cut into wedges and baked.
I'll do that. Yeah.
It's all about trying to get some flavour into the milk, which we then got to set with a slightly sort of new wave gelling agent called agar-agar, which has been around for years and has been creeping its way into the food world over in the restaurant world in the last couple of years. It's a pretty heinous thing, but it has got some spectacular uses.
Now, when I think of the Square, because I started my training when you kind of first opened, because it's been running, what, 20 years now?
It is 20 years next week. 20
years.
Yeah.
And when I was in London, really, when it was very classical, it still is. You stick by the classic roots of cooking.
It's absolutely, without exception, classical combinations of flavour. That's where we stay classical, because I'm just an absolute believer that nobody's yet demonstrated to me that a weird and wonderful, modern, wacky combination of flavours is better than a classical one. Mushrooms with thyme and garlic, chocolate with orange, pears with red wine. Those are the things that make me happy.
Yeah.
And make my stomach happy, and I'm a firm believer that it makes, that's what we all love. So the flavours are classical.
But the challenge must be in central London, because you've got all these sort of new guys opening up as well, the challenge must be to keep doing something different, surely.
Yeah, well, people are, humans, we're all, 99.9% of us are greedy. We love food, and stomachs and tongues don't lie, and delicious food is instantly recognisable, and so that's what I like to think that's what we rely on.
Yeah.
And so we just, that's what we do. We stick with classical flavours, which are delicious, and and people respond to them, and that's what keeps them coming back. But yeah, of course, it's a competitive modern world, London.
Yeah.
And you can't sit around cooking, delicious though it is, beef bourguignon for 20 years. You've got to make sure that you're doing more than just the basics.
Right, so I've got the celeriac here. You want a bit of truffle oil in here?
A little bit of truffle oil in there.
Yeah.
And this is a kind of a great example. This is taking something, you're acknowledging what's delicious about it.
Yep.
But you're kind of giving it a slight modern interpretation. So we just got to sweat the onion and the celeriac really quickly.
So this goes in the oven for how long?
That goes in the oven for about 25 minutes. Celeriac's got to be tender. It's got to be tender.
So the milk's gone in there.
Milk's gone in there.
That's just onion, celeriac, and milk.
Yeah, and a little bit of salt. But if you put too much salt in at the beginning, the milk will kind of the milk will split.
No, you're going to
get the next thing there is to get a piece of turbot roasting.
Yeah.
A little bit of salt, always right at the last minute.
And this is where the classic thing comes to mind in what I think of your cooking is turbot, because you love this fish.
Yeah, I love lots of fish. I love a humble piece of cod too. But there is nothing quite like a piece of turbot. It is for me, it's the king of all fish. It's white fleshed, it's squeaky clean, it's mighty, it's got a great texture.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a fantastic, and the big turbot are just unbelievably good, aren't they?
It's one of the chef's favourite.
He'd probably put it in a sun-blessed blanket. That's
I'd have to make a net, wouldn't I?
Yeah, but just having it on the bone, just literally turbot on the bone, is just so delicious, isn't it?
It just is one of nature's great. If there was for top 10 ingredients, this would absolutely definitely be one of them.
Now, as well as the Square here in Central London, you're working with another two restaurants as well.
Yeah, I'm a partner at a restaurant called the Ledbury, which is a great restaurant that is.
Just happens to have two Michelin stars.
It just happens to have two Michelin stars as well, and I think probably is going to end up with 3 quite soon. Nothing to do with me there, I have to say. I'll take a bit of credit in training the young man, but Brett Graham, the chef there, is a phenomenally talented cook. He is actually, for me, the one chef in the country who really successfully dovetails classic cooking with modern flair. He's absolutely great. And so he's doing great things. And then another restaurant called Kitchen WH, which is just off High Street, Kensington, which is a slightly more modest affair. It's just a great neighbourhood restaurant.
Modest affair, just with a Michelin star as well.
Yeah. Where are we going? We're going
and the left-hand side of it, yeah. How long's that going in for?
That's going to be just about 4 minutes, I think.
Okay.
Okay, so right, on with because the celeriac's grated, it just loses its flavour into the milk incredibly quickly. So all we've got to do there now with a bit of luck, is...
Well, I'm going to cook my cabbage. This is a good tip for you at Christmas time when you're doing Brussels sprouts or cabbage. Don't boil it. Basically, just cook it with a little bit of stock and some butter. That's it, really. So you, in a hot pan, you've got some stock here. Throw that in. A few knobs of butter straight in, and you throw the cabbage in. You do Brussels sprouts exactly the same sort of way.
There quickly.
Yeah. So you get rid of that.
So
this is
getting
just
rid of that.
infused
So
milk.
now what we have there is infused milk. And what we've got to do quickly is cook that out with something called agar-agar, which is a seaweed-based, completely natural gelling agent, which we've got to sprinkle in there. Need a surprisingly small amount.
So this is instead of using gelatin now?
Instead of using gelatin, yeah. But it has completely different properties. I mean, ultimately, you're turning a liquid into a solid, but it has very different mouthfeel. It's got a nasty texture to eat as a lump.
Yeah. Certainly does when you're making desserts. You wouldn't swap agar-agar for gelatin.
Good old-fashioned gelatin gives you that lovely, soft, supple.
Yeah.
Which is what's important about it. This is what's weird about agar is you can set a jelly and serve it warm. You can serve it up to sort of 80 degrees.
Yeah.
So that's all you've got to do there, is bring it up to the boil, and that's worked its magic. Yeah. And the next thing is to smoke it, and this is a slightly clever little trick. What do we need? We need a little bit of cling film on the.
All right. I'll move it over there so you can see.
That's good. And then we're just going to cover it with cling film.
This is a gadget for you, Sarah.
Fancy.
And that's sealed up, and then we make a little gap in there, and we pick this thing up. And then we just fill the pan with smoke.
Lofty, our cameraman's happy. He hasn't seen anything like that since Top of the Pops and Dusty Springfield. Look at that.
There we go.
Lofty's getting one of them. It brings back memories, doesn't it?
That's that. Then that just needs to sit for about 15-20 minutes.
Yeah.
You turn that off so it doesn't go bang, and the smoke will penetrate the milk and flame.
Now this is cooled right down.
So this is cooled right down, but literally that won't take too long. And this has just got to get put into. The only problem we might have here, we're just struggling with total volume for the blender, but I'm sure if we
I'll move this out of the way. So
let's get that cranked.
You can see it gets pretty solid, almost.
But yeah, that
like
does go
thick mashed potato or like cold mashed potato. That kind of texture.
This is where it gets frustrating, where modern techie things don't work how you want them to. But the problem we've got is we just haven't got very much of it. But
got a bit of cream in there or something?
We're going to get
Trying to get plastic in there as well.
We're going to end up with my feet sticking out of the jug.
Yeah.
Why don't you grab a piece of turbot out of here?
Don't worry, we've got a minute left. Fine.
Okay, we're looking good. It's not going to be quite as.
So you want me to just top it with this topping? The topping here.
So I'm going to top it with the hazelnut and let that sit.
That's the hazelnut.
That's where the recipe can end.
Yeah.
But I've also brought along the truffle just because I can. Just because it's that time of year.
Yeah.
But the recipe is 95%, 99% magic, just as it is. So then.
Right, are we doing that?
Yeah. So this is not quite as smooth as it should be. In fact, but it's still warm enough here. Well, yeah, we'll give it a quick warm. Get it warm a little bit further.
Just quickly warm it up. There you go.
It should be absolutely super smooth.
Right, I'll give you the plate, and then you can
here
put
we
the...
go. And we've got a little bit of cabbage is a great thing. It's a humble thing, but it's a great thing.
Now, as well as this, as well as the restaurants as well, you're writing your first book.
The first book. Well, it very nearly made it to the finish line, but in the end, in order to get everything in there that I wanted to get in there.
Yeah.
There it is, lovely, rich. It's not as smooth as it should be, but that's delicious.
There you go. Pan handle's hot.
And there is a magnificent bit of turbot.
It does look great, I have to say.
It's just like that is great. But if you really want to just be indulgent about it
Black truffle over the top.
and cover up the grainy puree. There's turbot in a posh blanket.
Certainly is. So tell us what that is again.
So that is filled
expensive
turbot with a
blanket.
hazelnut and truffle pesto and smoked celeriac milk puree.
This has been 5 years, but the man is a genius. Thank you very much. There you go, and we're looking forward to the book. I'm definitely going to have one of those.
It would be better, actually, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that, so let's-
Ever had black truffles before?
No.
No. It's your
No.
first time.
Yeah.
Alright, they don't bite.
Dive into that.
I'm going to have a little bit of everything if I can.
Yeah.
There you go.
But in season at the moment, we're getting British truffles.
They're
as well,
just
right?
coming into season, and yeah, they are, but they are, you know.
That's very good. Not a sandwich in sight. Well done, fella.
Yeah, well done, fella. There you go. Let's go back to Southampton and see what
It's
Susie
been a
is.
long time since someone said well done. fella.
To go with Susie has chosen to go with Phil's terrific turbot. Check this out.
When I first read Phil's recipe, I was transported to my very own food heaven. And a heavenly dish deserves a heavenly wine. And in this case, that, for me, would be a rich, nutty white burgundy. Something like this that would complement the turbot and the other luxurious ingredients in Phil's dish perfectly. But alas, good white burgundy is expensive, and so I'm looking for an everyday alternative, and here it is. It's the finest Sonoma County Chardonnay, which has a perfect balance of acidity with richness, and that's just what we need for Phil's dish. Now this wine is made from Chardonnay, which is the same grape variety as white burgundy, and it's also aged in oak, so it has a similar smoky richness that's going to work brilliantly with Phil's dish. That's a mix of lemon zest and creamy, nutty aromas. What's lovely about this wine is that its freshness will balance the richness of the celeriac puree and the buttered cabbage, while its toasty notes will pick up on that hazelnut pesto. It's not going to overwhelm the turbot, but it's full-flavoured enough to cope with the overall earthiness of the dish. Phil, as I've already said, this is my idea of food heaven, and although this may not be white burgundy, it's a very fine alternative.